Buenos dias, Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict, right? And as you can tell by that thumbnail right there, we're going to talk about the Asian gangs. Yes, indeedy, my Asian people, the Asian gente, the raza is what I call them. I call them the raza because they're that closely affiliated with the raza, right? Most of them have never had problems with raza, and some have, especially the ones down south. For a while, we know the TRGs and the Longos been going at it, till death do them part in a menudo style, in a direct fashion. But I wanted to talk about my experience with some of the Asians, their gangs are extensive in the state of California, and they've spread all throughout the United States, migrating here from such countries as Cambodia, Laos, all them areas, everyone always jumps to the conclusion that they're Chinos from China or Japoneses from Japan or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, a lot of them are from the Vietnam area, Vietnam, Cambodia. Like I said, I had a lot of Hmong homeboys, Mien homeboys, Laotians, Laos. And it's just extensive, man. I have a long history with a lot of authors from M.O.D, Asian Boys, Tiny Rascal Gang, Oriental Boy Society, Oriental Troops. The list can go on and on and on. M.B.Z out there, Modesto, the Mongolian Boy Society, Modesto Hit Squad, we're a Cambodian group that were out there wreaking havoc on motherfuckers. But I did a lot of time. As a youth, one of my first cellies in YA was a vato from M.O.D. Booger from Merced, M.O.D., a righteous individual. He's actually out of Merced, where M.O.D. supposedly started. I've heard a lot of different stories. It started in Fresno, it started in Modesto, it started in Stockton, Sacra. But I'm here to tell you everything that I've come in and concluded to is that it started in the city of Merced. Yes, my hometown. You already know 730 different reasons to tell you this. It started in Merced. Menace of destruction, masters of destruction. I remember at one point in time, man, these guys were treacherous. And quietly as it's kept, they were hooked up with another group out of Merced called Homeboys Only, HBO. And this was another Asian group, man, that were really closely affiliated with the MODs, and they were out there having it their way. Now, I can't tell you if they were Bloods or Crips, because at that time, they had a little bit of both. They've always had a little bit of both. Of course, you had some True Blues out of Merced, which was another Asian gang, and some Oriental Troops that were Crips. They ran with the Crip car, and they did their cripping, and cripping wasn't easy, but, hey, they did that shit. At the same time, these MOD, man, they were pretty much an extension of a gang that was out there called Black Tigers at one point in time. Shout out to an old school vato. A lot of people know him out of Merced, named China Boom, right? From the Black Tigers gang. And they gravitated into this MOD, and now it's worldwide, homes. I know they're deep in Minnesota. They're deep in Minneapolis, just everywhere. But I had a couple run-ins with a few of them. And not run-ins in a bad way, run-ins in a good way. Like I said, Booger was my cellie in NRCC. We ended up going to Nellis, or he went somewhere else. I went to Nellis. I ended up running into him in Nellis, and he ran pretty close with the Norteños. He kind of did his own thing as another, but he was cool with the homeboys that he identified with, which were Norteños, because he was from up north, being the city of Merced. But no one ever slept on the Asians. They were always quiet, not as a deep car, I'm saying in CYA, but we're down to handle their business if motherfuckers ran up, So I give the Asians a lot of respect. Their gangs are formed out of oppression. You got to understand, you have a lot of these guys that come from different countries, man. And they're just like paisas, where they come from Mexico and they don't really identify too much with gangs, but vatos oppress them. And so they have to band together to stand on their 10 toes to put it down. And that's what kind of happened with these Asians. They started to get deeper. I know, especially in the city of Merced, the Hmong community, the Laotians were fucking deep. ¿Sabes qué? They used to go to school with me. I used to go to school with them. It was always a love-hate relationship. We love to hate motherfuckers together, and in that fashion. Watch out. We used to put it down together. Shorty from HBO, Homeboys Only, as well as Shorty from MOD, two good close friends of mine that were always down. Dope Boy, and just a whole bunch of other individuals. Skinny Boy from Oriental Boys. Just righteous individuals. And the funny thing is that Booger gave me a lot of the rundown into the history of MOD. He had an 8-ball right here, 301, doing his thing. And, he told me they were formed out of oppression. They were formed out of just sticking together as a group. And it kind of just blew up, man. They started getting into their own. They started getting into the gang scene as far as it was going on in America in the 80s and 90s. And Sasuke, bang, bang, bada boop, boop, boop. Motherfucker, here you go, M.O.D, Masters of Destruction. And that's what it is, you know. Of course, over there down south, you had a big gang called the Tiny Rascal Gang. And they were extensively deep in Fresno as well as Long Beach. Now, the ones in Fresno, I heard used to go at it with the Bulldogs. Some have told me that they were cool with dogs. A lot told me that they used to go at it with dogs. I don't know. I wasn't right there in Fresno at the time. But I could tell you, I'm sure they held their own because the motherfuckers from the Tiny Rascal Gang are well known to be putting it down, right? As far as the ones in Long Beach, I remember being in Fred C. Nellis and Vato named Tiny from West Side Longo, as well as a couple other Vatos from the East Side of Longo. Every time a Vato would get there from TRG, they'd run up quick. Above all else, I don't know what other enemigos I had going on in Long Beach at that time, but it didn't matter. These Vatos took precedent over everybody, and it was on site with these Vatos from TRG. And they held their own. TRG weren't as deep. Of course, you'd maybe see 2 or 3 of them in any given institution or facility or yarda. But the ones that were there, man, were about their shit. There's no doubt about it. Shout out to the Tiny Rascal Gangsters putting it down. Now, another deep Asian gang that I had the privilege of running into, man, is nothing but respect, were the Asian boys, A.B.Z. And they're pretty mainstream now. A lot of people hear about them. They got rappers that come from the A.B.Z, from the Asian boys. And I knew there was a lot out of the Stockton area as well as Sakura, right? And these motherfuckers right here, and in that fashion, were about their business. You know, the makeup of them was just on some viciousness shit. A lot of them got caught up in bank robberies. They went to the federal prisons. A lot of them got caught up just on some gangster and some killer shit. You know, one thing that's, and it's not a myth, man. I'm here to tell you, one thing that's been known about Asians is these vatos have the straps. Where they get them from, quietly as it's kept, we'll never know, but they always have them. You know, I remember one thing that happened in the city of Merced, it's a little story. I told it on my last channel. I'm going to tell it right now, is there was a homeboy named Aldo from the West. You know, just a homeboy, not necessarily from Avadio, just the West side of Merced. It was a good homeboy. He was, he used to kick it with the Asians. Meaning he was from the West side of Merced. He was a Norteño, but he was cool with a lot of Asians. And one day we're chilling at my homeboy Chile's house, and he had a front porch at his grandma's house, man. It's kind of overhanging porch. We had the leftover of a keg from the night before. So there was a few hyenas, a couple homeboys, and we're just kicking back, drinking, and doing our thing, man. We're youngsters, probably 18, 19, 20 years old. And I remember I just got out of CYA, so I'm just kicking it with the homeboys, you know, establishing my shit. And Aldo comes riding up on a bike real quick, and he's like, hey, I'm trying to get a 16th, whatever, you know what I mean? And so it being the homeboy Chile's house, I went and got at him like, hey, trip out. Now, we ain't got none of that shit here, bro, but you want to drink? You want to kick it? So, of course, he comes on the porch. He's kicking back with the homeboys when a fucking mini truck pulls up. Now, I identify this mini truck as being M.O.D, right? Everyone knew they drove a mini truck with the camper, and there used to be a myth that they had a 50 cal fucking in the back of it, right? And quietly as it's kept, there's something back there, right? At that point in time. And this was years ago, 20 plus years ago. But anyway, so they roll up, and this vato named Shorty from M.O.D jumps off. And he comes walking up. I can see there's something shiny in his hand. So I'm already like, oh, fuck. I tell the homeboys, we've never had problems with the Asians to this point. So I'm like, hey, watch out, homes. These guys might pose a threat, you know? So I'm like, fuck it, homes. La primera, I go out there to meet them. I'm like, fuck it. If I'm going to go, I'm either going to get my shit peeled backwards or I'm going to go to the pen for getting off. Whatever the case may be, fuck it, homes. You know what I mean? Let me go see what this fucking Asian's all about. And I already knew what he was about, man. He was willing to tear someone's dome off real quick with the quickness. That's just how they are. Real quiet, but down. And so as I go out there, he's like, hey, he doesn't really recognize me from the distance. He's like, hey, where's Aldo? I'm looking at Aldo like, bitch, right? You done got us caught up. But of course, I'm not going to give up the homeboy like that. It's just not my get down. So I walk out there and I recognize him, little short chinito. I say, hey, what's up, Shorty? He's like, who's that? I said, it's Skinner, Humps. He's like, orale, Skinner, what's up? Come here, let me get at you. And I'm still skeptical because you don't know what's going through their heads, you know? And so as I walk up, I'm like, fuck it. The homeboy Chile goes out there with me. It's his pad. And we're like, what's cracking, bro? And he was like, what's up, bro? And I recognized him from Juvenile Hall. Shook his bicep. We were real good in Juvenile Hall. I backed his play on a couple things. He backed mine. So I'm like, what's with it, bro? He's like, hey, your homeboy Aldo over there, man. That vato burned us for a pelota, right? A ball. And he was supposed to go get this, get that, boop, 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 boop. I said, is that right? I said, yeah, bro. You know, I don't know what we're going to do about that. But, you know, that's the homeboy. We can't let you guys just do something terrible to him. And he's like, nah, just send him out here, bro. It'll be real quick, efficient. Sidekick, boop, boop, boop. It's all good with the hood. And we're going to do a push-in. And I said, we can't let you do that. And so he was a little aggressive at that point. And, you know, I kind of pulled him to the side, calmed it down for old time's sakes, pulled a little bottle. And he was down, and I said, look, bro, let me cash you on a little bread, bro. Let me get you guys back, man. It's all good. It wasn't about breaking it down necessarily, because our hoods were good, man. And if the pleito was going to be on, the funk was going to be jumping, then it was going to be what it was. But at the same time, man, there was no sense making a hostile environment right there where we had hyenas at the homeboy's grandmother's pad, all over the dope game, right? So they were happy with that. They said if they catch Aldo slipping on the guys, you know what I mean, that was his ass, and whatever the case may be, you know. Of course, we went, get over here, tall, stupid motherfucker. He's like, Sasuke, fuck them, I'll handle it right now. Yeah, why don't you go out there? Where were your antennas, motherfucker, when I was out there talking to him with Shorty right now? You were hiding there, leaning down by the cake. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Water under the bridge. Anyways, that was the first real type of friction with them. But other than that, man, we let that go. Everything was good from then on and thereforth. And we never had problems. Now, we did have problems with one Asian gang in particular, which were the Oriental troops, or True Blue. They kind of clicked up and kicked it together. And reason being was there was an Africano that was actually from True Blue, which were Crips. You know, a predominantly Asian gang, but they had a couple riffraff involved. They had one Africano, and they had these two white boys, Alan, and I forget the other one, his brother. And these vatos thought they were high powered. They used to be blued down and everything. And motherfuckers would mistake them, not for Crips, but motherfuckers would mistake them for Sureños. And so would always be getting at them, and they'd be going back and forth. They weren't no suckers by any part of the imagination. They were about their shit, about their Asian gang, or whatever the case may be. But what we tripped on was this Asian group like to kick it with A-Town, which were Sureños, and push that line along with them. So we had a couple skirmishes, man. There was a couple back and forths, and everybody knew was kind of on side. If we seen these vatos, they seen us. Whatever the case may be. Of course, we ran into them in a couple pool halls, which the Asians like to kick it at. They'd be in there bumping that Timmy T, one more try. Yeah, that was their thing. We'd run up in there, man. It'd be all good. There wasn't no True Blues, and that's what it was, man. Or would have got real blue, real true. But that never happened. So my extensive history with them has always been mellow. It's always been peaceful. It's always been righteous, man. I've always had a lot of respect for them, and I do to this day. Now, getting incarcerated in CYA, like I said, they weren't that thick. The only ones that I ever ran into besides M.O.D and Asian boys were others from miscellaneous gangs, like the Modesto Hit Squad, which were a Cambodian group that were hitters. Some was out of Modesto, Mongolian Boy Society, Oriental Ruthless Boys, or O-Lokes, Oriental Lokes. I mean, they had so many different gangs, man. I couldn't sit here and name them all, but they all had a little bit of thug in them. Orale Pac. You know what I mean? They were just about their shit. And, the TRGs, man, of course, everybody knows about the TRGs. If you don't now, you know, they were down, man, the ones from Fresno as well as the ones from Long Beach, you know. Funny thing is, when I was in Preston, there was actually one from Long Beach who had a real big TRG, or he had tiny Raskals on his stomach. He was an Asian homeboy, and he got there and he kicked it real exclusively with Norteños, almost to the point where the homeboy started to embrace him, right? And eventually, man, he ended up becoming a Norteño, not a CXIVer, but a homeboy, you know, a Norteño. He felt that if for no other reason, that's the route he was going already, he should go that route, and that's what it was. It wasn't about him abandoning his gang, because he was from tiny Rascal Norteños. It happened, Humps. True story. There's a lot of authors that were there at the point in time, but will fucking stamp that and vouch it for me, because it's righteously it's what happened. I forget what they called the homeboy, man. It was either Little Man or something like that, but he was with the business. Now getting older and growing up and going to the penitentiary, you know, going to Tracy, Corcoran, Susanville, things of that nature. I ran into Asians, but Asians were under the other car. They ran with the other car, and the other car consisted of the Asians, the Pacific Islanders, which are the Usos, the Tongans, Samoans, you know, Hawaiians, whatever the case may be, and then anyone that was embraced by them, meaning there was Puerto Ricans, there was vatos from Albania, Sasuke, there was vatos from everywhere, but they had to embrace them according to their agenda, according to their rules and reglas, and however they, you know, identified that. But the others were always good. Now, don't trip on the others, Humps, because the others will slip the clip and get to spitting, man. They were always about their business. And I seen a lot of the Asians and a lot of the others get off. And I'm going to tell you a story, man. When I was in Susanville, I was already in the oil. You know, I was already in the oil for a movida. And I was doing a little bit of time, and I'm kicking back there. And one night, man, I just see Asians after Asians, and Samoans, and I already identified this as the other car. They had got off, or someone had got off on them, and they had actually got into it with the Sureños on the yard, right? So I start getting at the Asian homeboy. I ride a little wheeler down, shoot it to him. I recognize him from the yard. I'm like, what happened, bro? And he says that they try to do a movida on one of the One of the others, one of the others, I accidentally got celled up with the Sureño. The Sureño pushed up on him, told him he wasn't going to leave the cell, was going to keep him in there, and was going to extort him, whatever the case may be, at that point in time. And the others, man, did a movida. They did a movida. They made it happy, man. They got off. And of course, they were critically outnumbered, man. We're talking about 200 to 300 to 12, but the Vatos handled their business. And that's the thing, is what I'm saying. Don't sleep on these Asians. Don't sleep on these others, because it doesn't matter how deep they are, homes. They've established their little piece of the yard, and they're going to hold it down for that. And that's just what it is. A lot of them are in there doing life. You run into a lot of the Asians in prison. They're not in there for fucking sitting there and skipping rocks and holding hands. They're in there for fucking letting off with that AK-47 or a Tech 9, when it doesn't jam. They're about their business. And in that fashion, right? And that's what they were doing. But the history into the Asian gangs, I know a lot of people, will sit here and tell you that they got an extensive history with the mafiosos, the Asian mafiosos out of, the Green Dragon, the Black Dragon, whatever you want to call them, out of or the Wachings or whatever, up out of Frisco. In Frisco, got the Chinatown, and quietly as it's kept, man, if you're walking through there at nighttime, you hit those alleys, so scared there's going to be big trouble, little China in this motherfucker, you know what I mean? It ain't no superpowers, some real life shit. I was just back in Frisco maybe a couple months ago. Me and the homeboy Rojo, from a convict's perspective, we're dipping through there, and we went out to eat, man, probably late night, maybe the only Asian restaurant open, and we went and got us some duck feet and a whole bunch of other shit. And them alleys, man, you can see there's some mysterious, shady shit going down to those alleys. And my antennas told me not to go down those motherfuckers one time from my mind, because my eyes just weren't the right pitch. You feel me? But it was all good. I have nothing but respect for the Asians and how they carry themselves, and they're into some real gangster shit. Now, a lot of people say, man, they're identifying themselves the way they dress now with Vatos from down south, Southsiders. You can't tell the difference. They're all tatted down, bald, and that's just gangster shit in general, bro. It's not about trying to be like another group and identify yourself and look like another group, man. They're just with a whole lot of gangster shit. And with that comes the Ben Davises, the Dickies, the paños, the colors, the haircuts, the tattoos, and whatever the case may be, man. But I myself have never looked at them like, oh, they're trying to be like someone else. The Asians are just simply being them, humps. They've been like that for a long time. They go through their phases. I remember when they all had the little tails. I remember when they all had the mullets. I remember they're all bumping Stevie B and Timmy T, giving it one more try, homes, letting loose with the AK-47s. 47 fucking different reasons to just run, because you don't want no problems with the Asians. The M.O.D. were with the business. At one point in time, they had the fucking schools in Merced on lockdown. The high school, Vatos were scared. You can go to school, but after school, you better go that way. You know what I mean? Because they'd all post up in their BMWs and their Mercedeses and just let anyone know, man, that if you came walking this way, Sasuke was going to be a motherfucking 9mm fest. Just how it was. Now, I sit back and I watch all these shows where they're talking about the Asian groups and the Asian gangs and how they're getting deeper and deeper. And Sasuke, quietly as a skep, they've always been deep, Vato. They're just a clandestine groups, man, that don't let their numbers be shown, And people say, well, they all look the same, Sasuke, they're smart. They just boom, 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 and then go back to, to Southeast Asia, not Charlie, homes. For the most part, they're here, homes. They're established, they're citizens, they're doing what they do. They're just not scared, bro. They're just with the business. They just want to do their own thing, homes. They want to drink their rice water and kick on back, homes, and post up and play their little dice games, you know what I mean? But when you go fucking with their territory and step on their block, Sasuke, they're quick to let them things go. Just what it is. I've had a lot of Asian homeboys. When I did my crime, I did my murder as a youth, and I actually went up to North Carolina. That's where I went on the run. One of the homeboys that took me up there was an Asian homeboy. He was from the Horny Boys out of Las Vegas, and his brother was actually a Norteño from NFL, man, on Norteños for Life out of Merced. One Mazda, shout out, homes. One of the first Asians to bang Norte out of Merced, and it was his familia that helped me out, and they were good people. They were good people, man. I'll forever be indebted for them, man, for risking their neck for me. But at the same time, man, I had a lot of respect, and this is where I met a lot of the Asians. I got to see just how they do it. And I'm going to be truthful and totally honest with you, man. The Chinos don't do it no different than we do it. They're about their homeboys. They're about their canalismo. They're about their embracement and their familia. Very family-orientated, homes, with the business. And like I said, all they want to do is kick it on some gangster shit, man. But they will get funky with the activities if you run up. Now, as far as them being Crips and Bloods, man, I've seen M.O.D. that are Crips. I've seen M.O.D. that are Bloods. I've seen different groups that claim different things. As you can tell by the guy on the thumbnail, the big old Chino right there, got bombed in on his chest. He's a Blood. They're all different, bro. They're all different. I've seen some claim black rag, get 5 dots on them for the number 15. I've seen just a lot of different things, and I never really got into the details of asking them because Sasuke wasn't none of my motherfucking business. But at the same time, I just know I kept it at a respectful tip because there always was a little bit of fear that they put into people. Right? Not necessarily, oh, we're scared, Sasuke. We don't want no problems. You know, not fuck that, huh? We can get funky too, the funky expedition. But at the same time, man, everyone knew they were always strapped up. Sasuke, they had them pieces. They had them things. I remember, man, if we needed them, Sasuke, hey, you just know what shorty from M.O.D? No, I don't quite understand that. I'm a M.O.D. I'm a cow? Yeah, I'll hold. You know what I mean? For those of you that know, no. I was taught a little bit of Hmong, a little bit of Vietnamese along the way. That's just what it is. Got a lot of love for the Asians. Like I said, I've never had a problem with them, man. I saw nothing but love and respect. Shout out to the Tiny Rascal gang, man. Oriental Ruthless boys, M.O.D, Asian boys, real motherfuckers doing real things in real life. And that's just what it's going to be like with the gun. I can tell you that I've seen things where they've gotten off, man. They've Sacramento, man. Sacramento is where it gets funky with the Asians. You know, they got a big establishment of a community of Asians, man, that are really with the business. Like I said, Long Beach as well. Fresno, shit, stand up, huh? They've been doing their thing. And my city of Merced, the Asians got their community, man, and everyone keeps it cool with them. Everybody already knows. You know, when it comes to Asian New Year or what do they call it, Hmong New Year, they're out there at the fairgrounds wiggling. So I was scared. Those aren't fireworks going off, vato. Orale. Those are 50 cows going off. Anyways, I hope that you guys get everything that you want coming to you. I hope that you guys move fast with a purpose. Remember, at the end of the day, man, it's all about the embracement of all gente, man. Not only the raza, but all people around us, man, because together we move as one, and the oppression is real, man. It's time to get up, get out there, and get something. You already know what it is, man. If you like this, like and subscribe. If not, I understand. It's all good in the hood. We're going to proceed as such. And in that fashion, the gun, Mr. Bang Bang, 730.